and he calls up Al at 8:30 and says, congratulations, we are under contract. When did that offer become a contract?
When Arthur sees it.
6:32. Because remember, Mike is, Al is Arthur. In dual agency, there is no wall of separation when it comes to communication of acceptance of contract. Another way of saying that is when it's signed in the presence of any agent, it's automatically considered communicated because it was what type of agency? Dual agency. It's like everybody's there in the same room. Okay? Now you have seen the major permutations of communication. Questions or comments about any of those scenarios? Yes, Al?
What if it's the same person? What if both agents?
Same rule applies.
Okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's almost like they are the same person in the situation I'm describing to you right now. A little bit later, I will talk about another option you have within dual agency, but for right now, it doesn't matter if it's one agent serving both or two agents who are with the same firm, given the information that you have so far. Okay? All right, questions or comments? You feel okay? Yeah.
If Arthur calls Al at 6:30, couldn't get a hold of him and leaves a message that, hey, I don't want to do the deal.
If Arthur calls Al and gets a voicemail,
Yes.
voicemails don't count, remember,
Okay, all right.
okay? But what if Al had sent an email at 6:30? Remember, this wasn't communicated till 6:32, so what would have happened in your scenario? It would have been a rescission. Yep.
Does text messages count?
They do actually count. They come up under the Uniform Electronic Transaction Act as well. What the recommendation is, if you send a text message, don't just say we're under contract. Say we're under contract on property at 123 Elm Street. Because what they say with text, because they have such limited capacity for putting letters in there or characters in there, that you need to relate it to something. But if you do, then yes, it will fall under the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act. All right, you got all that? All right, you want to hear a toughie? In talking about forms of communication. Now, if you haven't figured this out at this point yet, keep in mind you're learning this stuff so you can be agents, but you're also learning it to pass the test. We can throw some really weird crap at you on the exam. For example, you remember the very first one we did where Arthur was Al was a seller sub-agent? That's not going to happen in the field, but it'll happen on test. This next one is kind of interesting as well. We're talking about forms of communication. You said it was okay to talk to someone on the phone to communicate, okay? You said that fax, you said that email, that's okay under the UETA. Even text is okay under UETA. You know what? Mike could have dropped it by the office, Al's office, and to be quite honest with you, if he dropped it off with anyone in the office at Al's office, it's considered communicated, right? Because everybody is an agent of the buyer. So you could drop it off at the office. That's communication as well. Have you ever heard of the mailbox rule? Here's what the mailbox rule. Here's what the mailbox rule says. The mailbox rule says that when a letter, a note, is dropped in the hands of the U.S. Postal Service, now you have to assume properly addressed, okay? When a letter is dropped in the hands of the U.S. Postal Service, it is considered delivered at the time it's dropped in the hands of the Postal Service. Not when it's delivered, not when it's read, but when it's put in that big blue box sitting out there in front of Walmart. It's considered delivered when you put it in there. The idea being that once you put it in the hands of the U.S. Postal Service, you can't get it back. It's on its way. Okay? We have not used the mailbox rule in years, realistically. But having said that, that doesn't mean that we can't ask you a test question about it, okay? So I want you to watch a couple of different scenarios here. By the way, all of this stuff is very difficult to listen to rhetorically, but what I'm looking for is that aha moment when you're looking at my test questions, my midterm exam, and you'll look at those and you'll see, oh, I see what Chris is saying now. This is the way they can ask this such that it makes it complicated yet answerable. Okay. Let me set up what a test question might look like. Do you remember we have Arthur, a buyer, Al, an agent, Mike, Adam. I need to define for you what Al's relationship is. Let's say that Al, in this case, is a buyer agent with XYZ. All right, notice I switched up on you. We have ABC and XYZ. Would you agree that the wall of separation goes right here?
Yes.
Okay, so everybody's with me so far. Arthur makes an offer, let's just go ahead and call it 350 so this thing gets done. Arthur makes an offer at 350, Al delivers it over here to Mike. Mike gives it to Adam. Now Adam has had some other interest in the house, so he does want to think about it for just a little bit. Adam, by the way, is on his way out to California. So he takes and he puts the offer of $350,000 in his briefcase. He takes off to California. While he's in California, he reads it. He says, you know what? It's what I'm asking. I'm not really going to get a better deal than this. The buyer seems well qualified. So he says he's going to accept it. So Adam signs the offer at $350,000. Would you agree we have acceptance?
Yeah.
Do we have a contract yet?
No.
No, we don't have a contract yet. Adam takes, and I don't know why he does this, maybe wherever he is in California doesn't have a Kinko's, but for some reason he drops it in the mail to Mike. He drops it in the mail at 3:02 p.m. on the date of July the 2nd. Okay? What do we have at that point?
No.
We don't have a contract because who did he mail it to?
Mike.
And who is Mike?
Agent.
Mike is his agent. Okay? Now, I got you looking in one direction and then I threw a feint in there. That's what the test will do to you. Would it have been a different answer? Do you have any questions before I erase this? Would it have been a different answer if I had said this? Mike and Adam are brothers. They actually flew out to California together. While they're in California, Adam goes ahead and accepts the offer, and Mike mails it to Al at 3:02 p.m. on 7/2. Would that have been a different story?
Yeah,
Why?
because it's his agent.
Because he mailed it across the wall of separation. Al promptly receives this letter 10 days later, on 7/10, whatever, 8 days later. Okay, when was it a contract?
7/2.
July 2nd at 3:02 p.m. That's when it was a contract. What if Arthur changes his mind on July 5th? He hadn't heard from anybody yet. It doesn't matter because he was already under contract. Okay, that's the mailbox rule. Yeah.
So you don't need any kind of proof to say when that was sent? Because what if Arthur's like, I want to rescind my offer, and they're like, oh, we already put it in the mail. They
Yeah.
didn't.
Well, here's the deal.
Mail never got there, because
There
that
you go.
happens at my house.
That could happen.
Yeah, or the-
Here's the deal. This is the 21st century. If you are still using the mailbox rule, you might want to check your business practices. Okay? On the test, you will know, because it'll be written in black and white, and it'll say 302. If you do end up having, a lot of times when we deal with foreclosures, we do still have to mail stuff, but what we do is we always do it certified. That way, we have the proof of it as well. But the test question could be related to that. You can avoid this in the field. Okay?
Suppose, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Did you have a follow-up?
Suppose the seller said, you know what, I'm not gonna hold the buyer to this. I mean, he decides he doesn't wanna buy it, I've got a lot of other interest, we're gonna go ahead and just let him out of it. Can he? If there's a
Now,
if there's a
anytime,
valid contract?
anytime two parties are under contract, the two parties can agree.
They
It's on
can,
the new contract.
you don't have to get a lawyer involved and.
No, not if two parties agree. Now, the agents might be interested in this. I might look at the seller and say, hey, I brought you a ready, willing, and able buyer to contract. How about a little something for the effort? Well, I didn't close. I never said I was gonna sell your house. All I said is I'm gonna bring you a ready, willing, and able buyer to contract, and I did. So I expect to be paid. You could take that position. Most agents will not. But the buyer and seller, if they choose to go their own way, their separate ways, they can do that because they're the parties to the contract. Okay? Do you understand the mailbox rule? Will you, when you see that in a test question, will you be disciplined enough, read it closely, find out when it was mailed, and do you remember the first example, who it was mailed to? Okay? Let's go back to that first example one more time, and let me do one last permutation on this, and then we will be done with this little exercise. Al just got promoted again. All right, do you understand ABC and ABC? Are you with me? Okay. Al makes an offer on Arthur's behalf to Mike. Mike gives it to Adam. Adam jumps in an airplane, puts it in his briefcase. He's on his way to California. while he's in California, he looks at the offer and says, man, that's the best offer I'm gonna get. I think I'll accept it. So he accepts it. He goes down the road, drops it in a blue mailbox. He mails it back to Mike at exactly 4:33 p.m. on June 30th. Okay? Simultaneously, he calls Mike and says, Mike, I just dropped that in the mail to you. Okay? Mike calls up Al a little bit later that day at 6:30 p.m. and says, hey, congratulations, we're under contract. Meanwhile, Al says, oh, you know what? Arthur changed his mind at 5:30. We under contract or not?
Yes.
What time were we under contract?
4:33.
4:33, yeah, at the time it was dropped in the hands of the U.S. Postal Service. Dude, being able to prove this is impossible except on a test question. We will give you all those moving balls, and you just have to figure out which one happened first. Okay? All right? Questions and comments about anything you see today? Do you understand the significance of the effective date of the contract? Not the day the offer was made, not the day it was accepted, but when it was communicated. Do you understand there's a difference between an offer and a contract? An offer, you can walk away freely at any time you want to. But when it becomes a contract, it's binding. If you walk away from a contract without mutual consent, if you walk away from a contract, there's going to be a penalty. Could be due diligence money, could be earnest money, could be something else. Did you get that much out of it? And then notice that part about notice can be given to an agent or to such, to a party or to such party's agent. Do you understand what that means based on all of this? All right, that's what we were trying to accomplish in that first little section today. Questions or comments? Still quiet. You guys feel all right today? Okay, I'm done. Let's see, stop.